joined my channel. I'm Rin, and on this channel I try out new things, I make stuff, I craft, just whatever I feel like doing that week. So this week I decided to do a doll customization, and I got this cute little doll from Moonlight Jewel. Okay, you can see the doll's not in there because I didn't film this before I, did the doll, but the doll's in there. It actually has a little spare head with it. It's this cute little cat. So you can get kind of an idea of what it looks like from this. They gave you if you wanted to sketch out your idea, and a little sticker. But I'm not going to go into too much of that because I did film opening it up, unboxing, so you will see it before. Just not right here. So I think we'll just get right into the customization, and you can see all the stuff I did on it, and then we'll come back here and I'll talk a little bit about how it went. So you can see this is the box and everything with our little bean cat in there, our sticker, and the little sheet to design. It has a fun sort of early 90s aesthetic. But it came really nicely packaged and just really well done. It's probably one of the better Kickstarters I've gotten. I really felt like Moonlight Jewel, she really put a lot of thought and effort into it. So you can see that there's little eye blanks in there that I will have to fill in. And then there's a magnetic spot on her chest where they have 3 different little charms you can put on there: a star, a heart, or a little planet. And there is also a spare head. So one of the heads has just kind of a little smiling expression, and the other one has her little tongue sticking out. Of course, I wanted to do the one with her little tongue sticking out because it was so cute. And the arms and the legs, the head and the tail are all movable. And the back panel comes off the head so that you can get the eye blanks out and customize them. So now we're going to do some of those things that make me feel kind of weird doing doll customization, like removing the head. Yeah, it does feel a little weird sometimes. Yeah, let's just make it look weirder. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Are we done playing with the limbs yet? I don't know. I don't even know why I was doing all that. Oh, and now here comes the part where it gets even creepier, where I'm going to pop her little eyeballs out. Just jam it right in there. That's not weird at all. Yeah, sometimes doing doll customization makes you feel a little bit, for lack of a better word, like a serial killer. You're wrapping people up in plastic. You're taking their faces off. You know. Okay, now we're going to put on 3 coats of Mr. Super Clear and use protective gear. You can see here I'm wearing a mask and goggles. All right, so some of our supplies is soft pastels, and you use chalk pastels, not oil pastels. Those will not work. You also need watercolor color pencils. Just regular color pencils will not work either. You need very specialized things for customizing on a vinyl doll. And of course, tiny paintbrushes. These are actually for nail art, which is really good for the fine detail work that you need to do with these little tiny faces. But yeah, these are generally what you will need to work on the vinyl surface on most dolls. Okay, so just kind of shave off some of the chalk pastels to use with a brush and show a little bit of that, but I don't think you need to see all of it. Now I'm getting the color pencils I want to use for her face up, and I'm going to be drawing on her body too. I did cut out some of the using the chalk pastels because I was using colors that really weren't showing up. Yeah, so you can see use the chalk pastels to add some shading, things like that. There's not quite the contours of the curves on the stall, so it's maybe not as useful, but I'm still kind of figuring out what I'm doing with this, so just kind of winging it. But you can see I realized that the darker colors were being a little more effective because some of the greens I picked out just were too close to the skin color to really be useful. Yeah, now I'm starting to put in some chalk pastels for the eyebrows. Trying to give a little definition there. The eyebrows are really tricky, trying to get them even. Yeah, I still need a lot of practice on that, honestly. And then I was trying to use pinks to do the tongue and some blushing on the cheeks, but it was just really difficult because of the green color of the vinyl. And I realized that I was really needing to use the watercolor pencils for stuff like that because it just, the chalk pastels weren't going to add enough color for it to really show up. She did sell a white version of this, and I kind of wish I would have gotten that one. I would have had a little more like customization possibilities, but I kind of figured out what I wanted to do with it. I will admit I was kind of procrastinating here, trying to figure out what kind of design to do. And you can see you can use erasers if you need to take off any of the chalk pastel or the watercolor pencils. So it is somewhat forgiving. I'm trying to put in her little lashes. I'm just trying to get those kind of matching, but again, it's not always so easy, honestly. Yeah, one of these days I'll get the hang of that, and I sort of erased her eyebrow off. Yeah, put those back on. Whoops. Oh well. Yeah, just trying to define the features, make them stand out a little more. And then I'm trying to add some pink to the tongue so it shows up better. You can see it a little easier. Of course, since the color of the vinyl is green, I know it's going to need a few layers. So when you're doing a doll customization, use the MSC, Mr. Super Clear, which is a type of sealant. And basically that gives it a rough enough surface for the watercolor pencil and the chalk pastel to adhere to. But you also basically use it as sort of like a save point. Once you realize that you can't build up any more color, you're not really able to draw on it more. So I didn't film doing some of the sketching, I just sort of started playing around with that. But you can see I kind of went with sort of a vining look on her body and on her head. It's not a super complex pattern, but I thought it kind of went with her aesthetic. So basically you want to add the layers of the color pencil and the chalk pastels, and then you spray it with the sealant, and that will lock in each layer, and then it also lets you put more color on top of it and make it darker and make it stand out more. But like I said earlier, you really want to use safety precautions with it. It is a toxic chemical. It is not good for your lungs to breathe in. and you want to make sure that you have a respirator that is rated for gases, not just particulates. So if you can smell it, then your mask is not good enough, or you do not have a good seal on it. So definitely make sure you do that, because it is not a good thing for you to breathe that in. That is what I have read all of the places. So it's just something to keep in mind. And now I'm going back over my initial drawings of the vines, and you can see that with the second layer, it's really getting a lot darker, it's getting a lot more vibrant, you can see it better. And that is just sort of a product of using the sealant. And usually you probably have to do 3 or more layers to get a good color, depending on how much of a contrast there is between the color you're trying to do. Like some colors, especially lighter colors and whites and things, can be difficult to get a really good vibrant color on them. But I just sort of scribbled a design, didn't really plan it out, obviously. Just sort of going with the flow. I had thought of like some other designs. I thought of trying to do characters, and it just seemed like I was just afraid if I tried to make it too complex, it just really wasn't going to turn out looking very good, and it wasn't going to convey what I was trying to do anyway. So I thought a simpler design might just be a little easier to do. So then I decided to add in some little leaves. I mean, I think they turned out pretty well. I didn't really, they're sort of cartoony. I didn't really give them like a super realistic look, because I'm not very proficient at that at this time, but I just wanted to add a little something extra to the vines, just a little more detail to make it look more interesting, to add a little something to it. But I just didn't want to try to get too crazy or too intricate and it just coming off looking, not great. I really need a lot more practice at these things, and that's sort of what this is for, is like to try out things to get better at it. One of these days I'll make a really fancy doll. Someday. We'll see. So now I'm adding in some white to give some highlights on her nose and next to her lashes, just to add a little something in there. Yeah, I didn't like that leaf. Oh, and it was really hard drawing on that tail. I mean, the three-dimensionality of it is always kind of difficult, but the tail was especially difficult. Okay, so now I'm starting on the eyes, and I wasn't really sure what I was doing here. I will admit that. But my first thought was to try to get the color in there. I took some glue, and then this is Pearl X powder. So I mixed some of the Pearl X powder in with the glue, not on camera because, But then I was trying to paint it in there with a toothpick, and that wasn't really working. So then I got a paintbrush, and I was trying to paint. Yeah, that's when I realized, oh, I'm off camera. Crap. So I was trying to paint it in, and that still wasn't really working as well as I would like. So finally I just started putting some of the Pearl X powder in there and just sort of spreading it around and kind of using the toothpick to make it, striations like you see in an eye. I thought maybe that would work. So what I decided to do for the pupil is I put a little glue down, and then I added in these little seed beads I had. But of course they have a hole in the middle. So what I ended up doing was taking some black paint and just kind of lobbing it in the hole to fill that in and give it a more of a uniform look. And I think for the most part it was pretty successful. There's my head. Okay, the next step was to put UV resin into the eye to basically give it the right look and sheen. I swear I'm putting it in there, you just can't see it. So I didn't fill it all the way up at first so that I could try to cure it in different layers so that I would make sure that I cured it. And this is a little UV flashlight I used. And then once I cured that first layer, I went in and I put more UV resin in to basically fill in the rest of the eye. There's my head again. Just trying to, a little bit of a flame to help get the bubbles off. And then I actually put it under my UV lamp for the final cure. So you can see they came out pretty well. This one unfortunately does have a little bit of a bubble in there that I didn't get out before I cured it, but the other one's really nice. And for my first attempt at making resin eyes, I think it's pretty good. Okay, so this is basically me doing like the final touches on the cat, trying to get the colors a little darker, get her little details a little sharper. Although I did realize I probably should have sharpened my watercolor pencils a little better. I'm very out of practice, I think. Hopefully this will have given me a little refresher course, so hopefully I can do another customization in the near future and it'll go a little smoother. I did like the inset eyes because, well, let's face it, it's kind of difficult to draw eyes, and even though I did struggle a bit with how to get the color in there, I think it was a little bit easier than me trying to draw eyes that would look kind of the same. That's when I started to pull out the Pearl-X powder. Oh, kitty. I think I ended up doing an extra layer of this after I stopped filming, because the first one, after I sprayed it with the MSC, it still wasn't showing up very much. And even after a second layer, it was still pretty subtle, I guess is the best word. She is just about finished up. I did a little more of the Pearl-X powder, but that was pretty much it. And here she is, all done. I do really like how the eyes turned out. I don't think you can really notice the imperfection too much. Her design is fairly simple, but I think it's pretty effective even for being simple. And she just has the sweetest little face, her little tongue sticking out. And you can have her sit. Her tail keeps her from kind of toppling over backwards, so that's kind of convenient. And her little blip. So I was trying to get a little better close up of her face. And the Pearl-X powder, it looks kind of dark and almost like smudgy, like dirt, but it's really a lot more subtle in real life. The camera just kind of seems to be picking it up a little more than it actually is. I had so much fun making this little doll. I've only done about 2 or 3 like fully customized dolls, and mostly, and I mean, I've rerouted one of them and I've done a couple face ups and some clothes and stuff, but she's so precious And it was really interesting trying to kind of figure out how to make the eyes with the resin and everything. And I didn't get really fancy on the design, but I just kept going back and forth, and I just thought, having only done a few and having not done even that for a while, it was probably best to keep it simple. And I think she's adorable. So really excellent figure, high quality vinyl, really nice to work with. It comes apart easily if you need to do that. And of course the back head compartment makes it easy to get the eyes in and out so you can customize them. Just an absolutely perfect figure for customization. Unfortunately, this was through her Kickstarter, so it's not available anymore, but I would say if you were interested in stuff like this, she also does little human dolls that she's custom created, and she sells those on occasion. She also has a Patreon where every month you get a sewing pattern, a lot of times for Monster High. She has done some Rainbow High recently, but if you follow her on YouTube or Instagram, any of those places, I'm sure that you could find out if she's doing another Kickstarter like this. But I think she's cute, and she will be a great addition to my collection. My little garden kitty. Oh, hello. So that's all for this week. I hope you enjoyed seeing a little bit into the world of doll customization if you've never looked at that before. I went down the rabbit hole of YouTube videos on that a couple years ago and got really interested. I just haven't done any in a while, and so I'm kind of wanting to at least dabble in that on occasion between the million other projects I'm doing. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. Give me a comment if you have some tips or tricks for doll customization. If you had never heard of this before, I mean, maybe not right that it's awful, but you know, constructive criticism is fine. And hopefully I will see you in my next video. Bye.